Hi everyone, welcome back to Programming Horizons. In this video, we are going to learn about JSON in Python. We will cover everything such as what is JSON, why it's used, its basic data types, and how to work with JSON using Python's JSON module with clear examples. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, but today it is a universal data format used across almost every programming language. JSON represents data in a structured, readable text format. JSON is mainly used to store data, transfer data between programs, work with APIs, and save configuration files. In the first glance, JSON looks similar to Python dictionaries, but there are important rules, such as keys and strings must be enclosed within double quotation marks. Boolean values are represented as true and false in lowercase. Null represents no value, and functions, comments, and trailing commas are strictly not allowed. JSON supports a fixed set of data types as shown in the table. Here are the examples of these data types and their Python equivalent. The two most common data types in JSON are objects represented using curly braces, which is equivalent to Python dictionaries, and arrays represented using square brackets equivalent to Python lists. There are four main functions that you need to know while working with JSON in Python. Two of these work with strings while the other two work with files. Now let's see their examples. To work with JSON in Python, we will use the built-in JSON module. Now let's see the functions that will work with strings. So the first function that we have is dumps function. It converts Python data into a JSON formatted string. Let's see an example. Let's suppose that we have a Python dictionary named studentdict as shown here, which consists of three key value pairs. Now in order to convert it to a JSON string, we will first create a variable. Let's call it as json_str1, and then we will call the JSON module and the dumps function and pass here the name of this student dictionary. And now let's print this, run the file, and on the console we have a JSON string as shown. Now how do we know that it's a JSON string and not a dictionary? Well, you can use the type function here to check the type of this JSON string. Run the file again, and class is string, not a dictionary. On the other hand, if I check the type of student dictionary and run it, then the class is dictionary. So dumps function is useful when you want to send JSON over a network or print it. Let's move on with our next function, which is loads, that takes a JSON string and converts it into a Python dictionary. But before we use json.loads function, there is one small thing that often confuses beginners: the quotes. We know that JSON has strict rules which say that keys must be within double quotes and strings must also be within double quotes. So valid JSON looks like this. But in order to include it in Python, we need to wrap it inside single quotes. And now we can call the json.loads function. Data equal to json.loads, and then we will pass here text, and in the next line we will print data, run the code, and that's just how Python represents its dictionary. Basically, we have converted a JSON string to a Python dictionary here. If you want to check what is the data type of this data, then call the type function and run the code, and you will notice that this is a dictionary. Back to data. So this loads function is useful when you want to convert a JSON string to a Python object. It's time to move on and learn about JSON functions that work with files. So here I have created a new file called jsonwithfiles.py, and here I will show you the two functions of JSON module that work with files. We will begin by importing the built-in JSON module. Now here our next function is the dump function. Notice that I have skipped S in the name this time. This is because dump is different from dumps, and it is used to write Python data directly to a JSON file. Let's see an example. Suppose that we have a student dictionary with following key value pairs. Now, in order to write this Python dictionary to a JSON file, we will type with open and then pass here the name of the JSON file that we want to create. So let's suppose that the name of my file is mydata.json. After that, I will specify the mode in which I am opening this file, and this is going to be a write mode because I am going to create this file and write my data as f. So f is the object name, and then we will call the dump function. Note that I am using dump instead of dumps, and then pass here student dictionary followed by f. So that means I am going to use the dump function to write student data to my file. After this, we can display here a message JSON file written successfully. Let's run the code. And here you can see JSON file written successfully. And how do we know whether the file has been written or not? We will click here on the project, and here you can see my data.json file is created. Now, as you can see, the dictionary has been written to the file, but it is not in a proper readable format. Now, to make it more readable, I am going to specify here the indent parameter and specify 4 as the value for indent. Now, once again, after running the code, if I open my data.json, so now you can see the dictionary has become much more readable. All key value pairs are now clearly displayed in the file. So this is why we use the indent parameter. You can specify here any value, by the way. So let's rerun it. Notice that the space here, the indentation is reduced to 2. And if you want to increase it, then go for value 4 or any higher value. And as you run the file again, so you will notice the indentation has now increased. Now we are left with only one more function, and that is the load function. The load function reads JSON data from a file and converts it into a Python object. So here I am going to open the file that I just created, mydata.json, in read mode as f. So f is the file object, and in the output I want to store the data that I read from the file. So I am going to load the file here, and after that we will print file contents are and output. Now let's run the code. So the file contents are shown here, and using load function you load configuration files, data sets, user information and more in your applications. And that's it, everyone. In this video, we covered JSON basics, JSON data types and the 4 essential JSON functions in Python. Remember, if the function name ends with s like dumps and loads, then it works with string, otherwise with file. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next tutorial where we will connect JSON with our employee payroll system. If you enjoyed this tutorial, then don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Programming Horizons for more interesting tutorials like this.